And Sarah, you've set up an encrypted email service for people who work for the ABC to be able to get in touch and tell you what's really going on in the organisation. Why are you doing this?
Well, Paul, good evening. Great to join you. Yes, I have set up an encrypted email service. It's send Sarah Henderson at protonmail.com. And the reason I've done this is really sparked by the most improper decision by the ABC to pay for Louise Milligan's private legal costs in the Andrew Laming defamation matter. Now, the ABC has made it quite clear that they are not responsible for the private social media accounts. They're not editorially responsible. They're not legally responsible. And yet there is this posy club at Four Corners, which has resulted in Louise Milligan having somewhat close to $200,000 of her own costs paid for. It's really quite an outrageous decision, and I'm sure it's not the only outrageous decision at the ABC. Having worked there for some 9 years, Paul, I know that there are plenty of dodgy decisions and incidents, and so that's why I have asked ABC staff to email me privately, securely, anonymously, and to share what else is going on at the ABC.
Because as we saw, that first bursting the Canberra bubble story that was last year, that clearly was about Christian Porter. But of course, they could never suggest that that was the case until a whole series of other things fell in place. And then they got their second crack at it, replete with the interviews with former this and current that. Remember, of course, at one point in time had Sarah Hanson-Young repeating a conversation that she had in a bar. Remember that scenario, right? The sort of 2 steps removed. That was sort of the standard of proof that they were willing to put onto that program, which really showed us that we always thought, and programs like Four Corners, you would think that you need more than just a reporter and an executive producer to be able to go off on one of those taxpayer-funded follies. But the truth is that the system, if you want to go after certain people, you literally just need a reporter and executive producer, not the layers of apparent management that make sure that you can't have personal agendas being pursued.
Well, Paul, let me just say that I'm a great supporter of the ABC, but I want the ABC to be at its very best. Taxpayers provide more than $1 billion a year to fund the ABC, and so we need to make sure that all public funds are being expended properly and also in accordance with the ABC Act, because what many Australians perhaps don't realise is that the ABC has a statutory obligation to disseminate information both accurately and also impartially. So that's actually embedded in law. And we've seen many incidents where that hasn't occurred. And of course, on social media, some reporters have run rampant, including liking obscene posts and derogatory posts about the government. We've seen a recent incident involving Wendy Harmer. We've seen multiple breaches of the social media code. And of course, Louise Milligan also breached the social media code when she made that defamatory post about Andrew Laming. And rather than being found to have been in breach or, maybe a more serious finding of misconduct, the ABC turned around and said, "Oh, don't worry, Louise, we will pay nearly $200,000 for your costs, even though we have no liability." So it's an absolute mess. The ABC does need to be held to account for this frankly improper and terrible decision. And I really hope that this is a wake-up call. But, Paul, can I just say also for young journalists, for journalists in regional Australia, there is this gross discrimination. They're not given this sort of benefit. No. They're not given this sort of backing. So I would, if I was a young journalist or a journalist in regional Australia working for the ABC, I'd be pretty annoyed that, they are not in the so-called echelons of grandeur like the so-called star reporters at Four Corners.
Well, remember last year, literally they cut allowances to regional reporters in places like Western Australia. So a couple $100,000 to take care of the Star, an apparent claim that, the budget's under more pressure than ever before, yet we've got to go millions of dollars for Google ads and billboards and all the rest of it, right? Look, I like you. I'm not somebody who says sell it. I'm not somebody, I understand like hires like, right? But here's the thing. Whether they like it or not, it's part of the public service. And if transparency is their game, then it works 2 ways. Send Sarah emails if you'd like to do it anonymously. What's that email address again, mate?
It is send, Sarah Henderson, at protonmail.com. It's also on my Facebook page as well, all the details.